Hello, welcome to episode 2 of Almost in Focus with me, Tom Warland, and
me, Toby Beach-Wild, and our
there we
special
go.
guest today.
Yep, and this week we're joined by probably a photographer I've known longer than nearly everyone I've ever met, Ben Bird. Hello.
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 Good evening or good morning, whenever you're listening to this. Good day.
International, people could be listening at any time. We have American listeners as well now. Was it Canadian as well, did you say?
Yeah, was it? So, yeah, we had a look at our stats the other day. So we've got Gibraltar. So, hello, Tom. We have America. We have Canada, Germany.
That would be Viv. Shout out to Viv there.
So it's quite nice to have people from all over having listened to our insanity. So we invited phototherapy, insanity and phototherapy. So we invited Ben to come on after our little ramble a few weeks ago. And just for a bit of context, and I'm going to ask you to sort of talk about what you do. Oh yes. But this is quite interesting for me because Toby and I are both documentary photographers. We studied at Newport together, where we met. You are the complete opposite end of the photographic spectrum. So how would you describe yourself?
I would say I'm a visual artist with camera. No, visual artist, I would say. Artist using photography.
Because you don't just use photography, do you? You use
No, I do other things. I dabble in sculpture, text, but there's always normally primarily a photographic route or an image, shall we say. Photography, the image. Yeah, that's what I always come back to.
Sort of a broader house than the traditional documentary.
Yes. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, should we see what's happened this week with people?
Yes, let's do that. Then we'll come back to criticising Ben.
Not
try not to criticise.
Love. Judging quietly. No.
Judging quietly, there we go. Or judging loudly in this case. It is a podcast.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so go on, Toby. What have you been doing this week? It's quite exciting, actually.
Yeah, I've had quite an interesting week. It's half term for me. Week 1 of my 2-week half term, which is
lucky.
A bone of contention in my house, because my wife's also a teacher, and her half term is only 1 week, and it's next week. What it's allowed me to do is all those DIY jobs that I should be doing. No, I've taken the camera out, and I took out the famous Trishika, which is a Franken camera, for want of a better term. It was a £80 purchase on eBay while recovering and under the influence of multiple painkillers. That's my defence for it. Otherwise, I would never have bought it, definitely. Anyway, it was time to give it a proper test after it had been serviced and repaired. So I took a roll of Phoenix 2 as a film. We'll have discussions about that at some point, I'm sure. I think there's probably some strong opinions about it as a film. But the good thing was getting out with the camera, and I challenged myself. I'm not going to say hated on street photography. I felt like I had outgrown street photography in an arrogant and creative, mastery of photography. I am no longer a street photographer. Teenagers do that. Blech. Actually, it's just because I was kind of scared of talking to strangers. And so I challenged myself this week to go and speak to strangers. And yeah, it was good. I did things, bothered people in the street, just interesting looking people, in a way that I've not done for ages. And that was kind of partly off the back of our discussion last week where we talked about creative block. Not last week. Week before, it's all running into one long life. But yeah, where we talked about creative block, and I thought, you know what, let's do it. Practice what you preach. It was good. And then I took it to my local lab and processed it with them while drinking cups of coffee for free, because I'm a sponger. So yeah, it was quite nice. But again, I've got to shout out, not quite north as our local lab, for me anyway. Support your local labs, because if you don't, they're going to go, and then you'll have to post your film off everywhere. And being able to sit and watch, I literally, I had a content creator, and again, I vomited on myself when I said content creator, but I know it's not a phrase I like, but I watched the whole process with my meta glasses and made a little video of the film being shot and then processed at the lab, and that's something you just can't do if you haven't got a local lab that are tolerant of your idiosyncratic behaviour and have a special mug that you can go and use.
It is nice to see the inside workings of the Pro Labs, actually. I haven't done it with Meta Glasses, but use Not Quite North. I use Analog Wonderland, and again, actually, it was Phoenix too. They let me go behind the scenes for the processing of a role when that film came out a couple of months ago, and it was quite nice being that side of the counter and seeing how they look after the C41 machines and their approach to scanning. I normally scan at home, but to see the lab kind of routine and methodical nature of getting through all the stuff they have to in a day, it's quite, eye-opening.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think a good lab is always going to be the one that lets you go and get involved yourself, what you want to do with your film or your prints, etc. Like when we were at uni, Tom, and Davies Colour. I mean, I don't know if it's still going.
I don't think it is.
That's a pity. But there used to be a guy who, I hope he doesn't listen to this podcast, but if he does, I hope he isn't offended, but was nicknamed the Hobbit because he was short but wisdom-filled and sort of gave Hobbit vibes, but he used to know everything about printing, and you could go stand behind the desk with him, look at his screen, sort out your prints, and you got exactly what you were looking at. So yeah, local labs, local printers, if you don't use them, they'll go, and we don't want that. Because then I might actually have to start paying for coffee in town. What about you? Yeah, it's just too expensive. I don't pay for things if I can get them for free. I mean, to be fair, my mug says, what is it? You can tell a Yorkshireman, but you can't tell him much. And that's my... that's my mug for work. What about you, Tom? Have you been busy doing photography-related things, or have you been taken low by man flu?
I have. I have been ill over the last few days. But at the weekend, I did a photo walk. It was quite a small one. I had a few no-shows, which is always frustrating when that happens. But this was the second year of running my London stereoscopic photo walk. And yeah, it was really nice. So we walked from Carnaby Street, so right in the heart of the city, all the way to Lambeth. So through Westminster down to Waterloo, and then past the Imperial War Museum, where it started to rain, obviously, because we're in London and it's October, so it has to rain, it's law. But yeah, I got some really, really lovely stereo views of this lady making donuts in a shop in Carnaby Street, which I'm quite pleased with. And yeah, those are the best ones. What else did I get? On Insta? Yeah, I posted them.
Oh, you post any more up, or is that it?
I can't remember now. I posted a few up on the weekend, but since then I've mainly been comatose in bed, feeling sorry for myself. So I can't really remember much beyond that.
Is that the drink, or have you just got what's going around?
Just what's going around. Yeah.
How dare you be ill?
I've been spending a bit of time in
the algorithm.
I know. And stop putting me off.
It's what I'm here for, isn't it? I thought that was my job.
Ben, stop smirking. It's your turn in a second.
I'm not going to put Ben
off.
He's
and I've spent a bit of time in the darkroom with, so teaching my students how to print over the last couple of days, and also been doing some other darkroomy stuff, which is a little bit top secret at the moment, but news coming soon. Yeah, that's it really for me. What about you, Mr. Burn?
Well, after that tantalising tease, I'm afraid I have nothing that much exciting. I've just been to work, and my work involves using cameras at a place that will remain nameless, but it's a very large arts institution in the centre of London, and I've been doing that. So I've just been to work. I haven't been taking any photos, but hopefully on Friday I will be picking up a print from the framers. Hopefully,
go on.
If I get there in time before it shuts.
So what's this? What have you got framed?
I have got a print that has been about a year in the making, because I think you both would understand that it takes, at the moment, life is lots of priorities and lots of things, and have just been going on, and it's taken me over a year to develop and print and frame a single image. But it's happening, and then when the work is finished, when it's framed and I have it and I hang it up, then I can say, like, this work exists now, because it physically exists. I mean, it physically exists anyway, but it's like it's in a form ready to go to be exhibited, but the likelihood is it will just probably remain on a wall in the flat, or it will be covered in bubble wrap, covered in tape, and shoved in the back of a cupboard. But it physically exists, and that I will take that at the moment. I will take that as a new piece of work.
I think that's a win, isn't it?
That's actually quite a nice little segue, Ben, as well. One of the things we wanted to chat about you is that idea of that physical existence.
In what plane? Like in an artistic plane, or
Well, I mean, so when we did our episode 0 almost a month ago, Toby, can you believe?
I can't. I mean, I am while having this conversation, I'm trying to think of episode 0, and it just makes me think of Star Wars. I feel like we need like a Star Wars-esque title for it. Sorry, again, I'm thrown completely.
You throw me again. So we talked about a podcast episode from a few years ago on A Small Voice, where Simon Norfolk spoke about the era of the photo book and how for him that era had come to an end. I don't know if he still agrees with what he said at the time. It was 4 or 5 years ago, so he may have changed his views since then. When you listened to that, Ben, you started texting me loads of like little voice messages, kind of ranting and raving about the importance of the book for you.
Yes, I'm coming at it from a perspective whereby my work is not particularly book based. When I make my work, I see my work normally as prints, like it's made with the idea of installation or a print on the wall. It's never normally made for the book, not intentionally anyway. But yes, I think that the book is very much alive and well and kicking, very much so. Maybe it's harder for names to get, your Fidens, your big glossy publications, that kind of thing. And they cost so much money anyway. But I think kind of the handmade DIY book or publication doesn't have to be necessarily a book in the traditional sense that we would normally see it. That is very much alive and well. In fact, I went to a friend curated a show in London last week, all to do with photo books. Brilliant show, brilliant work. Some of the books were, as objects in themselves, beautiful. And yes, that requires money and time and planning. But some of them were just A5 zines, the kind of thing. Easy to do, and that's made me think about work that I've kind of had on the back burner for a very long time, and that work I can see in book form. And I don't think the book is dead at all. I think also how you can publish or print the photograph or the image, does it have to be necessarily a big shiny book? Could it be, as you said, I think in the other weeks or the other previous podcast, postcards, or could it be newsprint? That kind of thing. So yeah, it really got me thinking how to me the book isn't dead. I mean, if you went to Offprint, if anyone's in London, I recommend every May go to Offprint. It's kind of tacked on to Photo London, and it's in the Turbine Hall at the Tate Modern. Free to go in, and it's rammed full of publications, whether that's small independent ones or larger ones or bookshops or publishers. They've got tons of interesting, not even necessarily photography books, but say visual art, picture-based publications.
Do you think maybe the book is still alive and well in the art world then, photographic art, rather than the sort of traditional documentary? And then the question, of course, is what's traditional documentary, and does that belong in a gallery?
Yes, I would say on a creative level, it is alive.
I think. Sorry, go on.
Whether it's kind of accessible for would you call it mainstream or the general public, Yeah. Is it just very navel gazy? If you're in the world of the photography and creative arts, you'll know about this, but, talk to Bob on the street and you probably wouldn't, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this is this thing, because there's books that we come across, there's the big ones that we all know, anything Martin Parr does, we all, you'll see it because it's going to be big. Things like The Americans, which we've mentioned before.
How long have you had your copy?
Shut up. Longer than last time.
You're doing better.
There you go, see? I'm not the only one.
Mr. Bird, really? You've not got a copy of The Americans?
No.
It is worth having.
It's on the list, but I do not own a copy of The Americans.
It's worth having. I feel like I was spoiled by seeing it.
I'm coming back to that in a moment.
Christmas is coming up.
Yeah, there we go. Just put it out there. Ben's Amazon wish list will be shared with the podcast. I think he's thrown me this time. So yeah, you have these sort of big names that yes, everyone's going to know. I mean, who does he think he is? David Bailey, that kind of stuff. Then you've got the people that we would know, maybe your average enthusiast or just Joe Blogs wouldn't, and this is not throwing any shade on anybody, but the photographer I'm thinking of is someone like Matthew Finn, who's done a couple of really nice bodies of work, beautiful books, but he's not in that, big name category. Now, his books are really beautiful things. I've got one called Mother, and it's a documentation of his life with his mum. It's a really nice bit of black and white documentary, 35mm, but presented in a creative and artistic way rather than your traditional just picture, text. And I think that is that kind of photography that we're talking about where the photo book is becoming very niche. So maybe it's alive and well in that respect. And then you've got your creative books like you're talking about, the handmade, which I think going out on a limb, actually prefer. I think I'd prefer to see 10 handmade books of a project than 1,000 Kickstarter blurb books, if I'm honest.
I agree with that.
Save me before
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because it's the work has more value. It's the same reason that we shoot film or that we listen to analog. It's authentic. I think that's the crux of it, maybe. I mean, that being said,
You think it's also...
No, go on, sorry.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say...
No, do you think it's also...
You go, Ben. I'll shut up.
Do you think it's because it's there's a finiteness to the amount that you can publish? Yeah, you could do quite a few, but realistically, you're probably not going to do that much of a print run. I mean, I know. I've got a friend, and she works exclusively in book form. That's how she always makes her work, and she makes one copy.
Yeah, and then
normally one copy.
It's a body of art in itself, then, isn't it? I think that adds to it. I think so. I think more so than the mass-produced things. I say mass-produced. I'll ask a question, and then you guys can jump in. Do you have a copy of? And I'm going to just reach over and grab it. Yeah, that sounds like I've got a massive house. My office is literally 3 steps across. Any of you got a copy of this before we get started? Or one of them?
What is it for the viewers?
It's the Portrait of Britain book that's made every year. Yes, do we know? We've seen this?
I've seen it. I have looked at it. I do not own a copy.
Fair enough. So I own a couple of them. I won't be purchasing more. They are a photo book in the mass-produced sense. Do you know what I mean? They're nice. This appeals to. I don't know why I keep holding it up because the only people seeing it is you two. So I shall put it down. I'm holding it up beautifully. I would model awesomely for books. If anyone's looking for a book model,
with its pale green spine.
Here's a book I purchased earlier. It's nice. It's consumable. Who does that one? Hoxton Mini Press. They do some great books, small runs, etc. The Portrait of Britain thing, I think, it's a real democratic photographic experience. Does that make sense? He's everyman. Yeah. I mean, do I always like what's in there? Not really. There's some brilliant photography in there, and there's some stuff that just doesn't work for me. But that's what makes it sort of everyman photography. I think that's the kind of photo book that we were kind of getting at. That's on its last legs. I don't think people are. I don't think that is the future. I think that kind of print run like that is probably not where photography's going. I think, like you said, limited print runs of niche books, and then stuff like that's going to end up online. I think. I
get what you mean, and I totally agree with you in that idea of enjoying the handmade book and the zine, maybe even over the mass-produced.
Yeah.
Book. I know I've always enjoyed small books over coffee table. I like the idea of it's kind of almost cozy. It's like sort of leaning back into a nice comfy armchair, and you can sort of tuck yourself in with the book rather than getting a bad back leaning over a coffee table slab. So
it's heavy as well, isn't it? And how do you hold it?
Exactly. I've got 2 questions for you, Ben. One of them is book-based, and one is sort of stretching from that back to something you said earlier as well. When Toby mentioned the Americans, and I gave him a bit of stick, You defended them by saying you don't even own a copy.
No.
Now, it's one of those books, it's the formula of so many photography books ever, for, 70 years must be now, thereabouts. But I also recognise that Toby and I are both documentary photographers, and the books that we are going to have in our book collections are going to be leaning in that direction quite heavily, because that's what appeals to us. You are not documentary. And I suppose my second question will kind of fall onto this as well, is what if you okay, 5 books.
Desert Island
The Ben Bird 5-book challenge. Here we go.
Oh,
what
this is going to be
5
taxing.
5 you can make it 3 if you want.
3, please.
Okay, 3 must-have books on your shelf.
You've got me there. I mean, at the moment I cannot actually see any photo books that I have in front of me, and some of them aren't even in this where I am. So that's going to be hard. But I haven't actually bought a photo book in quite a long time. Not a standard photo book, and I'm wondering whether the photo book, like the Americans, whether it lends itself for that documentary. Now, narrative, that's where it works, and that's where the work best sits, potentially. But my photo bookshelf, God. I've got Eggleston.
Classic. Documentary classic as well.
Yeah. I'm not anti-documentary or against it.
No,
I just haven't got the Americans.
I'm just curious to being what's the books that you would get excited by picking up and sitting down for half an hour with a cup of tea. What's the ones that get you going in the same way that the Americans get so many reportage photographers excited?
I think maybe this may sound like a terrible dodge and a great cop-out, but maybe it's some of the ones that the work you haven't seen. So if I go into, I don't know, Photographer's Gallery Bookshop or Photo Book Cafe in London, I'm going to go for the ones that I like the look of, design-wise maybe, and the ones that I don't know, maybe by someone I don't know. I once received a book, and this is terrible because I can't remember the name. I don't have the book in front of me, so I can't tell you the name, so it's completely pointless. But I once received a present from a friend of this photo book by a photographer I've never heard of. I couldn't find much about online. I thought the work was fantastic, and the book worked really well, the format. So maybe I'm after something that's going to surprise me. Something I'm going to discover, something new.
I wonder if that's something that maybe thinking about our own collections, Tom. Perhaps we almost have a what's the word I'm looking for? Not just a genre, but a pattern that we buy into. I was thinking about what would as you asked Ben, because I instantly assumed that you would turn that question on me like a laser of evil, and I was desperately trying to think of my 3 books. I know that one of them would be Minamata, which I don't know, but I know you well enough to suggest that would have been one of yours as well. Nod on.
It's number 1, isn't it, Tom?
It's number 1 for Tom. Yeah. I think Minamata would be one of mine.
It's not actually number 1 for me.
What's number 1?
Number 2.
Number 1 for me is probably The Big Book, so it is still Eugene Smith, but...
Is it a Eugene Smith clean sweep? Gold, silver and bronze?
I'll think about it.
You see, I'd have... Yeah, I'm actually cheating and looking. Motherland, Minamata, and Bresson's scrapbook as a combination.
3 very solid choices.
Although I can tell you the first photo...
I was going to say, Bresson's book gives me a backache every time I lift it.
I can tell you the first photo book I ever bought. It was a Cortege book. I remember that. Was it? Maybe, yeah. I think it was a book based on a TV series or a documentary that they'd done on him. But it was André Cortege.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the thing. But I remember buying the book.
Yeah, so it's got the power of that. I remember actually thinking about it. I think one of my earliest sort of experimentation with photography was inspired by some of his work. The shadow of a fork. I'm sure you probably know the picture I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. I remember as an A-level student mercilessly ripping that off and pretending like I'd had that idea, as all students do at some point.
My favourite Cortege is the one with the cracked plate. So you get that black No, so it's a view from a room. So it's across the city, and it's on a glass plate. And where he had to, I think the story is he had to bury some of his archives to try and hide it during the war. And then, ironically, that was an attempt to try and stop the stuff getting damaged or lost or stolen or whatever. But actually, some of the stuff did get damaged from rubble, or I don't know the ins and outs. But there's this one he printed where you got this cracked black shape in the middle of the city view, and it's fascinating.
I think that's something we've touched on before, isn't it? And that's that analogue. It's the imperfection that makes them good. I've been discussing my current project with a variety of people. I put out a video. That's something I'm going to mercilessly waffle about for a moment. How is it that I can put out text-based things explaining the projects, asking people if they'll get involved? Nothing for weeks. I put a 33-second video out and it's taken off. I am complaining, but I'm not complaining because it's great because there's people getting involved. But why didn't I think of a video before? Anyway, the long and the short of it was I was talking to people about the project, which involves people with medical conditions and exploring vulnerability. And the general opinion was that everyone wants to be photographed on film rather than digital because they feel digital's clinical and the sort of medical things that they go through are like digital processes. And so I really loved the fact that these are non-photographers saying this. So I've spoken to 5-6 people this week, and I've said, like I say, it's taken off. A lot of that was the last couple of days. And I've said, look, the process is this. I want to make your portrait. I want to come and spend a day with you. I want to document what you do, what your routines are living with this condition. And I've said, you have the option. Do you want it digital, or are you all right if I use analog photography? Personally, I'm documenting a lot of what I've done where possible with analog. And so far, everyone said analog. And when asked, a couple have come up with the reasoning that when they're in hospital and they're being documented by the medical team or medical profession, it's clinical and it's, in inverted commas, perfect. And that's the digital process as far as they're concerned. And so they want something imperfect because they feel like, having had the surgeries, etc., that an imperfect rendering is actually a more accurate rendering of them, which I thought was kind of deep for people who haven't had to read Sontag or Berger, but are actually just processing their own trauma, which reading Sontag and Berger can actually cause. Yeah, for real. I mean, ask my poor year 13 photography students who have had to watch Ways of Seeing and read sections of Sontag in the last 2 weeks. To say I am unpopular would probably be a mass understatement. But
you are so cruel.
Do you think there's an element as well of the physical in there as well? Their reasoning behind it, or is it purely maybe as well because they're not used to traditional film and it's kind of a novelty, perhaps?
There's an element of novelty. I think there's an element of... Yeah, I think novelty's part of it, but I also think that the making of an artefact, I think you're right. I think it feels more like art if it's analogue. And I've probably just offended like billions of people who create digital art. But in this...
I don't think you will have done. I don't think you will have offended anyone in that. It's...
Damn.
So much of our lives is digital. You've been filming yourself this week using a camera inside your glasses. So
Not
much
just
of what we do is digital. This conversation is digital.
Very true.
It's everything that we do. Everywhere we go, we are using digital technology, and that's great. And I think because it is everywhere, the moment you say to someone who's not in photography, not in that world, I want to make your portrait on film, that means you've got added expense, which means that you're actually willing to, really invest into your time with that person. You're creating something that is physical, as we're saying, it's tangible, but it isn't data. A digital photograph is, it is data, and that's fine. But it's suddenly you're allowing something to be more to do with emotion rather than just the data-driven facts.
I do wonder if some
maybe
of it
it's time-based as well.
Yeah.
What do you mean by time-based, Ben?
Inherently, it's most likely a slower process.
I think that. Do you think there's that was a lot of stammering. I hope we have to. Maybe we'll edit that out. Maybe we won't. Who knows? Do we think
that's my job?
as I say, feel free to leave me stammering in there. My brain was going faster than my mouth. Not often an issue I have. I think the fact is that it's more intimate. Film takes longer. You make more of a connection because you are taking longer to get what you want. You don't shoot what did I say the other day? So shooting a roll of film costs you 20 quid-ish, if it's cheap film. If it's portrait, you might as well remortgage your house. But Phoenix is, 10 quid a roll-ish?
Yeah, thereabouts.
And then processing is probably about the same. So there's 20 quid. And the time to go and take pictures. People are more inclined to engage with you if they think you're putting your own money into it. You're not making anything out of them, and you're giving, like Ben said, you're giving them the time and you're spending the time to get to know them. Inherently, I think people who have gone through medical procedures, I've not actually said what medical procedure, and I don't know whether if anyone's interested, go and look at my website. It's all on there. Shameless plug, and I have updated the website this week. However, anyone who's gone through a medical procedure, I think, is vulnerable around whatever surgery or situation they're in. And so I think if you can take the time, instead of snapping a digital picture going, thank you very much and see you later, I think that might be, it's relationship building, isn't it? Which, it depends on the photographer, it depends on the individual, but I generally want to get to know the people I'm pointing a camera at rather than just snap, thank you very much. I've captured a word we don't really like on this podcast. I've acquired your image, and therefore I've taken what I needed, and goodbye, thank you very much, so long and thanks for all the fish. Whereas film, you make the image with them, you have that conversation with the person, you spend the time with them, get to know them, you go away, there's some magic with chemistry, and then they get either a print that you've made in a darkroom or you've had made ideally chemically, or they get a scan, which to most people a scan of the negative is probably going to be what they will ultimately want, which is kind of a hybrid between the actual real thing and the simulation. Oh, check me out, postmodernism thrown in there. I've been teaching that as well the last week. It's all very fresh in my mind. Sorry
how
for those
have your students reacted? Are your students glad it's half term now then?
God, yeah. I'll take a moment to be proud of them though. They handed in an essay just before half term, and they all know their grade now anyway. No one got below an A, and it was all on theory, so I was like, well, I've taught it well enough that it's stuck in their brains, so yay for them. And they've got a half term where they're not having to think about postmodernism or feminism or socialism or any of the isms that they have to learn off me. I'm a cruel man. But yeah, anyway, sorry, go on. I think I interrupted you, Tom, quite possibly. Were you going to tell us?
I've got no idea. It was so long ago, Toby. It was so.
I just like the sound of my own voice, all right? I like to listen to the podcast in the car on the way to work when you're not around, just thinking to myself, God, I sound good.
Right, so Ben, something you said earlier on about how you always kind of envision your work as the print.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of exhibiting the work in installations and so on. I know the stuff that you've been doing over the last few years better than most people listening to this.
Probably anybody listening to this, just about.
Give us a bit of a sort of a work through of what you do, and how you use photography within your work, because I'm thinking of some of the stuff you've done quite recently over the last couple of years where there is no print. It is still photographic, I will grudgingly agree with that, but there is actually no discernible image.
Yes.
So come on, what is photography in the world of Ben Bird?
God, apologies listeners, because you are now going to hear a bunch of waffle, but no. The stuff that you're talking about, I have been experimenting with cyanotype, and I've been trying to work with it in a sculptural form, and it's not necessarily the end outcome is an image, but it's bending it into this tangible 3D object and then letting it react, letting the light where it's placed react with it, and how it also reacts with itself. But the outcome for that would be an image. But sorry, it would be the only way to show it would be by documenting it, which it would be the image. So that's for the documentation of the installation or the sculpture. That's the work that survives, essentially.
It's like,
if that makes any sense to anybody.
Is that like
so I'm good.
Who's going?
Go, Terry.
Okay, I was going to say, is that like the sculptures, the sort of natural sculptures that are essentially only there for as long as it takes for nature to destroy them kind of concept. You know, the stone sculptures or the
I mean, mainly it's kind of how maybe if they're in a show, how long the show's on for, or maybe it is until it gets broken. That could be naturally, or I've had it in one case accidentally where the cleaners destroyed it. But
it was intentional. It was part of the art.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that.
Did the cleaners know that it was a art piece?
Quick, chuck that in the bin.
I hope so, but
that sounded much more harsh out loud than it did in my head. I do apologise.
That's a bit.
I say nothing.
That's a bit Guardian of you.
Okay.
Guardian on Tracy Emin, isn't it? You know, worst thing I've ever seen. Tom Warland.
Do they hoover up the bed up and then make it, and
Yeah.
Okay, so before I start getting hate messages from my website for saying such horrible things, let me just give a little bit of context to this. Ben, when you did your MA, you were interested in construction of our environment. Essentially, you're looking at sort of construction of high rises. You've been looking at construction of housing estates on ex-green belt kind of stuff and commuter belt kind of areas. And part of your work was a cyanotype in an exhibition space, which was quite literally a metal rod about 30 centimetres long, coated in cyanotype emulsion and left to expose during the show. So for anyone who'd walk in, it's literally a blue pipe.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm not being mean, but for the people outside of the art world, i.e. the cleaners, might not be aware that your work... I think I've dug myself out the hole.
I mean, we can see your head
now. Don't worry.
Your feet and most of your torso are still underground, but we get you.
You can put the spade down, it's fine.
Yeah.
Is the spade blue?
Yeah, whose the spade is blue, yeah. I think there's an interesting thought there, though. What we're saying is the concept, again, correct me if I'm wrong, because we actually have the artist here, so we can get corrected when we make erroneous or inaccurate assumptions on the work. The concept of the work in itself is more important in your process than maybe the final outcome in that respect.
Yes.
Yeah. So the image of the work, so the photograph of using Tom's phrase, blue pipe, that is just a record of the concept rather than a piece of art in its own right.
Yes, because the physical work, the actual sculpture might get, it can't really be reused because it's been exposed. I like to kind of keep them under wraps until it's time to put them out into wherever they live in the exhibition or whatever. Then they'll react, so the cyanotype will react, it will go darker, it will get to a deep blue, and then it's done. It can't do anything, you can't bring it back to an unexposed state anymore. So essentially the work's finished. So the only way, like your Richard Longs of this world, is the work survives or lives on through the documentation. And that's essentially how it can live online, because it can't live online any other way. It has to rely on the documentation of it. But going back to the idea behind the work, I did my MA. I really wanted to challenge myself and try and push boundaries and ideas and really play with what I can do. Because I know I can pick up a camera, take a picture, fine. I wanted to take it further, but it's always it's still rooted somewhere in the photographic. Hence with that chemical process, and the chemical process relates to the idea of blueprints as well. So there's that linkage through there. And the work I'm doing
I literally missed the whole, with it being rely on buildings and blueprints, and the whole fact that obviously cyanotypes are blueprint, the original blueprint. That's another. It's layers within your work, isn't it?
I mean, you're very generous with that.
Well, take it.
Very kind.
I don't give compliments often.
I will. No, definitely. But it always comes somewhere from the photographic. So I think as well, it's also using the image. So there's some work that I want to make in the future, which is still based on the image, but I'm not going to take the pictures. It's still photographic in a sense, and it comes from the photographic. But is that any different from, say, like a Dada collage?
I mean, it depends on the process, doesn't it? I mean, even if there's plenty of documentary photographers who've given cameras to their subjects, and then that's their work. I'm doing inverted commas for people who can't see me, obviously, but their work, I think if you're the creator or the curator of the images, then it's your work. You're bringing together elements the same way that you bring together elements in a composition of a photograph. It's like the picture of the monkey on the front of National Geographic. Who took the picture?
Yes.
Was it the photographer who set the camera up, or the chimp that pressed the button?
Or taking it, I know, Tom, you might resonate with this. You've got a composer. They can write the musical score. They don't play the instruments. They might not even conduct the piece.
Yeah, that's a Ansel Adams quote, isn't it? The photograph is equivalent to the musical score. The print is the performance.
I must say, having said all of that very potentially arty waffle rubbish, the picture that hopefully I'm picking up on Friday is a straight black and white darkroom print of a thing that really exists, shot with a large format camera, so it's fine. I'm still trying to do that.
I think my favourite thing that you've done over the last few years, Ben, was it wasn't actually you in the end. And I'm hoping you worked out where I'm going with this. So this was, so it was where you change your persona. Do you want to take over?
I know where you're going with this. Yes.
And it was so this was the idea of the cyanotype. So you created a fictional geological survey.
Well, I will explain. It was partly born out of lockdown, partly born out of dog walking, partly born out of a way of coping with it. I had all these there was lots of different thoughts, and they all came together, and I was working with my partner, and we decided to create this work. And part of my problem was that this work was very different from anything that I would normally do in my own practice. So it didn't fit. So I thought a way around this is possibly, and it was also kind of a bit tongue-in-cheek and a bit of a joke, was to create these fictional characters. So they would allow us to make the work.
Very
so
kind
then
of
we
them.
could, but then we could also do, because we weren't ourselves, we could go out and perform and do all this, stupid stuff like rolling around on hills and stuffing your head in piles of dirt and whatever. But it allowed that freedom to do that, but also as a kind of a fictional element with the kind of, which was also quite a playful part of the work. But also it was a different person making it. It could fit outside of this kind of space or this visual identity I was trying to make for myself. And also, it was a freedom as well. I think it allowed me to work differently, maybe to be unconstrained. If it wasn't me making it, it was someone else making the work.
Yeah, I love that.
But what's quite interesting with that is actually in the end it did turn back to being you through the cyanotype, and it was where you had in the exhibition you had a sheet on the floor coated in cyanotype emulsion and then rocks on there, and you moved the rocks around during the show.
Yes.
Letting light fall and expose the sheet in different places and different times, and
that was actually black and white darkroom paper.
Oh, was it? I thought it was.
No. A big ass lumen.
I dread to think how much it cost.
Well, we won't go into that. But yes, I'll tell you the other interesting thing with that work, the whole project, the whole idea was I was working collaboratively with my partner. And I've never worked collaboratively. God, get your words out, Ben. Collaboratively with someone before, and it was interesting how much authorship each person had of the work, and how much control, and this kind of trying to find a middle ground of doing that. And I think that was the one really, really interesting thing to take from that. And the work's still ongoing. We're still making bits and pieces, but also because it's its own little entity. There's no pressure to make the work. There's no time. There's no consistency to kind of keep on doing it. It's as and when, and that also is down to it being a work between two people. We actually just took down a work that had been on show at the beginning of this month. It's been hanging up. It's a big print on fabric, and we've had it hanging in a local woodland, part of an art show trail, for the past, 5 months. It's actually survived surprisingly well. Yeah, it's that little kind of that give and take, and that having to work with someone, and kind of it's not all just your idea and you're going to do this and I'm going to do this. You've got another opinion to consider, and to and also to push back on against. so maybe something you're thinking, but also to validate it as well. And you might have an idea, discuss it, it sparks, other person can take it down a whole new route, and it's a really interesting way of working, which, as I said before, I'm not used to that. This is new to me, so it's been great. It's been a great way of freeing up and experimenting.
I feel like this can be referenced to our last episode as well. This is the sort of thing that breaks that stalemate in your creativity, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think we all had that through lockdown. So this is your way of escaping lockdown.
Definitely, and I know it's lived on since then. But you're definitely right, Toby. It's a way of getting rid of your creative constipation.
Yes, I'm glad it's taking effect. I'm glad it's taking hold with my terminology now. I feel like it needs to be our first piece of merch. Can we have a T-shirt that says "Toby cured my creative constipation"?
I'll get my wife on it.
Excellent. Merch store coming soon. In all seriousness, we should actually have a T-shirt that says "Almost in focus, cured my creative constipation."
Can I get it on a sticker as well?
Yeah, well, funnily you should mention that. Long story, which we won't go into, but we have a house duck. Yes, a duck that lives in the house, and it has a TikTok. And because I got sick of people asking me about the duck in a backpack or the duck on the walk on a lead that wanders round Lincoln, we got stickers made that just have like a little link so that people can go and watch a video, so that I don't have to explain it anymore. So I know where we can get stickers made.
You just silently hand it to them.
To be fair, people wander over to me and I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, it is a duck, and here's a sticker. Go and check them out on social media because I'm having a coffee.
Does the duck have its own camera?
Funnily enough, I actually have got it a little toy camera that it has around its neck at times.
Is it a coke?
So, yeah. Ben? A coke. The pain. But no, it's a quack cheeker. No, yes. But like I say, I think we need some stickers. I shall get my PA onto that, and when I say PA, I mean significant other who knows how to make the stickers. I say merch incoming, episode 2, or well, recording 3, episode 2. The confusion continues. We're already on merch. Anyway,
we'll have to sort these numbers out eventually.
No, I like it. This is episode 2, final edit.
Episode 2 of.
Yeah, see? I mean, I feel like it's one of those, like when you're editing for a client and you save it in like final, and then the client has something else they want doing, so you go final, or final A, and then it's like 20 different finals.
Final A1, final A2.
For real.
Final AA.
Yeah.
For real. This one.
Yeah, no more editing for free. Final. Anyway, I see the time, and we have clocked our target time of 1 hour, which is sufficient time to steal from everyone's significant others and children and ducks and cats and parrots, etc.
Yep, and if you're listening to this on your commute and you're still driving home, then you definitely work too far away and should look for a new job.
And congratulations
for making it through.
Put up with us.
Triple waffle this time.
Okay, so Ben, we're going to put you on the spot here. Toby started a little tradition in the last episode, and it's going to fall on you.
We need music here. Can we have some suspenseful music, please, Mr. Editor?
I'll see what I can do.
Excellent, thank you.
I can't be bothered, but I'll see what I can do.
Just some royalty-free rubbish that we can steal off the internet for free. Sorry, go, shoot. Do the question, my man.
Okay, well, the question is a question. So last week, Toby gave us sort of a pondering thought for listeners to consider. You're our guest, so actually, we would like to offer you the opportunity to give a question to people to think about over the next couple of weeks.
God, you can tell that I have not prepared this at all.
Panic not, nor do we. We prepared nothing. No. We well, actually, no, that's a lie. We drive to work. While you're thinking, I shall vamp because we're good like that. We drive to work planning all sorts of things that we're going to discuss, and then Tom usually gets to work before me. Well, you write them down, and we have a Google Doc with them all in, and then we ignore it. But we do continue to add to the Google Doc every week. If we ever get stuck, we could actually open that and read it. We've probably got some ideas. Go on then, Ben.
Okay.
I've vamped for as long as I could.
Oh, he's got something.
Well, I'm just thinking, for the listeners, if you could only print or have one photo, I don't know, in the house or with you could just have the one, what would it be? You could have one image, hang it up on your living room wall, what would it be?
See, I like that. There's going to be, I bet you...
That's cruel.
I bet you loads of people will say wedding photo or photo of their firstborn or family. which are all really good answers, but I think it requires a little bit more thought. Your favourite.
You're secretly thinking, "Oh, please be Martin Parr," or probably not. Actually, no. He who must not be named.
He who shall not be named. We should have a swear jar, a par jar.
Par jar, brilliant.
If I had one of those at work, I'd be destitute.
Okay, Ben, I can actually answer that one from me, and you are both actually partially responsible for it.
I take no responsibility as yet.
Yeah, I know. Well, Toby, you were involved in this. Don't try
knew
and
nothing.
back out.
It is not admissible in a court of law.
Okay, so
you can prove nothing.
When I got married, Toby was my best man. Ben was one of the few guests we invited. It was quite a small wedding, and I had this great idea that it would be really good to do a self-portrait at the wedding in large format. So I borrowed a long cable release, and I trusted Ben, who shoots predominantly with a large format camera, to set up a large format camera and get it in focus. It was not even almost in focus. It was horrendously out of focus. But the memory of, as I walked into the room with my wife, seeing Ben and Paul, is another photographer I work with, and Toby trying to set this camera up out the corner of my eye, was the most hysterical moment of the day, really. And the completely out of focus portrait of us at the wedding is probably my favourite photograph of that day. Just because it was so hilarious.
And we knew that, and that's why we did it. It was planned.
And it's almost in focus.
Yeah.
It is almost
do you know what?
No, it's not. It's not.
Focus is a bourgeoisie concept.
Focus, no one else is.
It's a bourgeoisie concept in photography. Focus it's subjective.
See, we made a mental image for you. You
really did.
You need a print. It's a mental image that stays with you.
And you'll notice he's managed to make it his wedding photo, so he's managed to get that it should his significant other listen. He's golden now because wedding photo and also a fun story.
Yeah.
You just set the bar.
I also blame your camera because it's a funny one.
It's made of wood. Stop it. Get speed graph. It's too complicated. Right. Anyway,
so should we wrap this up?
Yeah. Let's. We could talk all night, to be entirely honest with you, but we should call it an evening. It's an evening.
So Ben, have you got anything photographic coming up to be excited about? If it's not yours, a show it's worth going to see. You mentioned that photo book thing the other day.
Well, I have got nothing of my own coming up, unfortunately, but I'm just thinking off the top of my head. If anyone is in London, sorry people, that's where I am. So that's, yes, I'm capital-centric and biased, but there is Boris Mikolov, a retrospective or show coming up at the Photographers Gallery, and there's also a show on Polish photography there as well.
Yes, I saw a poster for that the other day. That looked quite interesting.
And there is the Taylor Westling on at the National Portrait Gallery. If you're into portrait photography, which I not really am, but
still worth a go.
And you have the funds available, there is something for you to watch.
I might even.
What about you, Toby?
The Photographers Gallery sounds like I actually might get on a train and head down to the Big Smoke. I'll leave the safety of the north. Well, Midlands. It's north to you lot. It's the wrong side of the M25.
A duck's day out.
Say again?
A duck's day out.
Duck's day out. I'm not sure she'd manage London. That being said, I don't think London would manage Yorkshireman with a duck. I'm not sure you're ready for that.
But it's not ferrets, it's ducks.
It's ducks, yeah. I mean, ferrets were so mainstream. They're so last year. There we go, guys. Right, I shall click stop.